Hey Josh, this is Keaton Everett with ABC, going over your pitching video from camp. I'm going to go through and talk about your motion and your delivery and stop at a few spots and kind of talk a little bit about ways that we can get consistent, ways that we can increase velocity, most importantly, make sure we're staying healthy with everything. So, you're doing a pretty good job at getting some extension down the mound. You're using your legs. There's just a little bit more we can kind of do initially to get everything closed a little bit longer and to get ourselves in a little bit better spot to generate more power, and we'll go through and talk a little bit about each one. So we'll go back here to start. So basically right off the bat, pitching is just all about generating obviously the most velocity we can, but it's all about consistency. Is we got to be able to repeat our mechanics. We got to be able to do it day in, day out, every time the same. And so the ability to get repeatable with everything is just basically to make it as efficient as we can, to eliminate any excess movement. Big movements are a lot harder to repeat. They're a lot harder to time. And so I want you to watch what happens when you start here. All right. So cue in on your shoulders and your head and that center of that gravity. So you can see how you start back, all right, and your shoulders turn. All right, you get a big leg lift, which is fine. All right, so what we want to try to get to is we want to eliminate all this extra movement for you. All right, we want to try to get to that point where not only is this movement backwards slower, if a runner's on base and we're trying to be quick, not only is it slower, but it's not as efficient. All right, it just takes that momentum away from you. We want our momentum to be going forward. It doesn't have to be, we want to be balanced, but we don't want any backwards, just like sprinters. Sprinters don't start back and then forward. It's just not as efficient. All right, so we're going to go back or go forward. And so right here, now this is where we want to set up. All right, so now you're about, almost over that back foot right there. And shoulders-wise, turning shoulders is, or having a turn in your shoulder is fine, but we don't want to turn them as we start our delivery. So if you like to have your shoulders turned, come set with them turned right there. All right, so there it'd be, something like this. And so now back here at the start, all right, you're just going to have that front shoulder turned a little bit more, but now, maybe with your feet, maybe just a little bit closer. But all it really is just a hip shift. So now you take your hips and you shift them back over here. You're not leaning back. You're not changing your posture. All right, just an initial load where it's about 80% back here, 20% on that front side to get that set up to, and that's going to help you get repeatable, and it's just going to get you more efficient. All right. So next thing what we're going to look at. All right, and you do good at once you get to that balance spot, you hold it throughout that leg lift. All right, a lot of times guys will start leaking forward and rushing everything, so you're doing good at staying over that back leg through the leg lift. Now what I want you to key in on is watching what your lower body does here. So we're going to kind of make this a little area to view. So you can see how you get your legs, your hip back in a really good spot. All right, this is a good spot to be. Your hips are closed. Basically I'll talk first about what we want to see at this balance point. Is we want to see our hips to lead, our hips to go forward, and then our hands to break sort of over that rubber somewhere. And what you do is you're getting big, and make sure too to work on once runners get on base. Sometimes you might not be able to get as big, so just kind of watch that big too much here or there, but what you see is there's a little bit of a turn. So watch this hip or that knee right there, and you can see your body kind of swings open early initially, and then you get this foot starting to kick out, and then it kind of swings out here. Now your foot's out in front of your hip, and it's foot out here. It doesn't really ever get extended down closer to the ground, so you lose sort of that power that you build up right here. So what you want to try to get to is hips closed the longer down the mount. All right, so as we sort of skip forward through here, instead of getting your foot and kicking it out here, just let it sort of think about just falling down to the ground as your hips go forward. So as it's falling, it might follow, maybe a line like this. So and you can see how it kind of kicks out a little bit right here. So just kind of try to follow that line a little bit more. And so then what that's going to cause is at about right here, your foot still hasn't gone past your hips. All right, so you're just opening up your hips early. So now your leg might be here. All right, here, it might, it'll probably be kicking out here. Maybe now it's like right here. So now it's just later. There's more energy stored up. You're going to get a little bit more stride length when you get to that foot strike, which is right. Looks like it's about right here. So this is that foot strike. All right, so this is another spot. We key in, we can see how your hips are working in relation to your shoulder, your torque. So you can see your hips coming through a little bit before that upper body, which is good. All right. And so just the more that you can stay closed longer and staying through that back side, you're going to see a little bit more power and velocity out front. You might be able to pick up maybe another half foot length, so you're not as far over your ankle with your leg, but you're doing a pretty good job at staying closed. All right, there might be a little bit of leak, and it's kind of hard to see from the side, but it's not too bad. And then through your release, part of that getting out, losing your hips a little bit, what that causes is this back foot to pop up off the ground. So when you get out front early, and you get out your weight out on that front side early, that front foot's going to come off the ground, and we're not going to be able to get as much out of our pitch. If you think about punching somebody, a boxer, they have 2 feet on the ground when they drive through a punch. They're not punching with 1 foot off the ground because you just don't have anything behind it. Same thing with pitching. So what that's going to do, keeping your back foot on the ground, just think about driving through that back leg, driving all the way through it. You're going to pick up maybe another 5 or 6 inches of release point. You're going to see your head out and chest out over that front foot a little bit more instead of sort of behind it. All right, and then that's going to get you another couple inches of release point, which is going to get on the hitters quicker and just benefit you a little bit more. So again, do a lot of things good. Clean up that initial set, and then work on your hips. Just let that leg fall a little bit lower and keep them closed longer instead of kicking that foot out, and that'll help get you a little bit more velocity, get you in a better spot. So anyways, overall pretty good though. So good luck this season. Hopefully you have a great time. Thanks for making it out to camp, and hopefully we'll see you again with ABC.